Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Come on, step outside. Step outside the box. Appreciate you guys watching, tuning in. I'm your host, Mike Terry. We have a very special guest here today. I'm excited to bring her to you. But before we do, I want to tell you a little bit about her. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Diane Bostick. She's done stand-up comedy for years now in and around Syracuse, New York. And she is here to talk about a little bit about herself, but also importantly, her brother. We're gonna show you another picture. Her brother, her brother Chris was a very talented artist whose art was used as sketches and company brochures, books, as well as private requests for events and celebrations. In essence, he did it for the love. Sadly, Chris took his own life in 2019. Since then, Diane has taken Chris's artwork and used it as coloring books and sold them for the benefit and to raise money for suicide prevention. What are we here to talk about today? A little bit about Diane Bosnick, but also about suicide prevention, which is something I think we can all get behind. I'm excited to bring to you and introduce, ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for Diane Bosnick, everybody. Big
Hi.
round of applause.
Great to be here in the studio.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you
I
coming.
want to tell you that although suicide is a very serious topic, my brother was a comedian in his own right.
Okay.
He was a big weightlifting guy, but he was short, so he said he was a cross between Fred Flintstone and a mailbox.
Okay. I got you. I got you.
So I couldn't take it completely seriously when I saw his comic art. But
Yeah.
and when I do play around Syracuse, I actually use the comedy name Rena Riley's.
Okay.
I had a grandmother named Irene, and so I really close to her. So I
Yeah.
use that as a comedy name. But Diane Bostick is how I started to do comedy originally.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we met in, was it 2018 or was it before
I
that?
think there was an ice cream shop involved
Yeah.
downtown.
Ice cream stand. Used to
Yeah,
have stand up
and
every weekend.
we didn't get a lot of attention. The double scoops of the pistachio was way ahead of us
Oh, right. Yeah.
when we were in the corner.
Yeah.
But I remember talking to you then and being inspired by your comedy. And I
Thanks,
followed your
man.
podcast recently, and I said, why don't I give him a call and see if I can talk about my latest coloring book, adult coloring
Absolutely.
book with my brother's
Absolutely.
art.
Yeah, man. We definitely gonna get in. Before we go into the coloring book and I just wanna let's let the people know a little bit more about Diane Bosnick. How did you I like to say it as your comedy origin story.
Yep.
How did you what lit the switch for you to say I want to do comedy? What
Okay.
made you make that decision as well?
Good question. Many years ago, Jeff Altman was a friend of a friend that I met in Syracuse.
Okay.
And there was a weightlifting couple, and Moolah was the girl. So I went on as a double because my background was really theater.
Okay.
But I started at that point running myself these lines, different
Mhm.
lines. This was the Old Wise Guys, run by Bruno Sharippa, down on
Okay.
Peach Street.
Oh, that's not it.
Okay,
Okay. Yeah,
a
that's
long time ago.
okay.
And so I started doing my solo act, and then pretty soon I won the Amateur Bud Light Comedy Award, and I got to host.
Oh, nice.
And it was very different from me. So that's way, way back. So
Okay.
I guess what I realized about comedy, which I really liked, because I sang, but I didn't have an instrument. And comedy, you really only need yourself as the instrument.
Yeah.
It takes a certain, I think, writing ability, delivery ability, and growing ability to be a comedian and to
Yeah.
know yourself. So I seem to have all those things. And so I performed Wise Guys. Then I had traveled around with the show band, and I went into the comedy club in Cleveland one day with all my bandmates in the front row cheering me on,
Yeah.
for open mics. And then
Yeah.
I was in Florida for 10 years, involved in music and not so much comedy. Came
Yeah.
back to Syracuse. My mom was still alive. My dad had passed away. And with my husband, my French Canadian husband, who you
Yeah.
just met.
Yeah.
When he's angry at me, it's in two languages.
All right.
And yeah, and it's not good. But and so got back into comedy just a couple of years ago.
Okay.
I started to go to Funny Bone. I won a second place in the 2022 Clash of the Comics,
Nice.
September.
Yeah.
But a lot of things kind of interrupted
Yeah.
that that motivation there. But recently, I've been doing podcasts with a New York company, the Jody Oliver Show on Sunday
Okay.
nights, And now I'm doing features and things like that. It's from the comfort of my own home, which I've needed for the
Yeah.
past couple of months.
Yeah.
In my own studio, I've been performing. So that's a little bit of the underpinning of my comedy and where it's brought me to today. My comedy was interrupted by marriage,
Oh yeah.
by my stint in Florida, trying to do everything I couldn't do up here.
Okay.
You go on cruise ships and sing and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But when I got back here, and my brother
Yeah.
ended his life by suicide, he left a note for me.
Okay.
They don't give you the notes right away because even they told me it was an active investigation. And I was the
Okay.
only living relative that I was his POA.
Yeah.
So it was like saying that I went to the basement of the house and took this 285-pound man and
Oh
put
yeah.
him up to hang.
Oh, I got you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so which
Everybody's a
was
suspect.
ridiculous.
Right. Right.
But I went in and insisted after 10 days they gave me the active notes. And the end of notes had, I woke up this morning, which was Friday, May 3rd, 2019, I believe. It was a Friday.
Okay.
And he said, my fingers didn't work. They were slowly
Oh,
losing their
like
touch.
numbness.
My brother David had died from ALS the year before,
Yeah.
and my brother Chris had markers for it, which he never
Oh,
spoke about to anybody.
oh,
And so one morning he woke up and said, my fingers didn't work. The writing was on the wall. There was nothing left for me. Please remember us. And there
oh,
was several other notes beyond that. But what tagged in my mind was, please remember us.
right.
And so it was easy to do that
Yeah.
because I was left with enormous amounts of artwork and also literature that my parents, who were writers and I never knew, had left in the rafters of the house that we cleaned and sold.
Oh.
So there were boxes and boxes of all these things.
Mhm.
And it was my choice to immerse myself making books.
Yeah.
So it's how can I make his art come to life?
Right.
Because it's like I'm a boomer. Thanks for your sympathy
Feel free
in advance.
to show that right up
Yeah,
to the
it's
camera. Let's see
Syracuse
if
Good Times, and it's the third in a series of coloring books featuring my brother's art, which was along the style of Mad Magazine.
down.
And
Okay, I'm with you. Sorry. I'm sorry. I don't
that's
keep
all
going,
right.
Diane.
And the Mad Magazine, was kind of a comic. And my brother was a muscle guy. He was a weightlifter.
Yeah.
He was a
Yeah.
musician. He had
Uh-huh.
touched on all these things. But I said to myself last year, I said, what can I do
Mhm.
to get a more broad audience? Because some of the books that I showed to people said, this is disgusting,
Oh
because
wow.
he featured big breasted women.
Yeah, I like that part. I'm not gonna lie. I like that part.
Well,
I
all
was like,
right.
this man
There's a
got
certain
taste.
demographic that loves the books, but it's a
Yeah.
niche. And you
Yeah.
gotta
I
you
feel
gotta
you.
find the niche.
Yeah.
So I said, how do I get out of the niche and then appeal to the boomers? And I said, well, hey, I've got this big stash of Syracuse Retro, the old amusement park, the Limp Lizard, which is currently
Yeah.
working, Julie's Diner, which is currently working. And I said, and in the back, I do notes so people
Okay.
can read what the business was, when it came into effect, what
Okay.
personal memory I might have had with it.
Yeah.
And then there's a scrapbooking page. So I said, went to my high school reunion and I got my answer. You do those round robin tables like it's speed dating. Hey, I
Right.
haven't seen you in 20 years. What have you been up to?
Yeah.
And I said, this book. And I said, I dare you to go in there and find a place you didn't drink when you
Okay.
were 18
Right.
and not tell your parents about or your girlfriend. And he said, oh, I'm going to buy one of these. So they sat down with their grandchildren to color because the grandchildren liked the images and now they could talk about their memories.
Right.
So it became to me a memory book. We
Okay.
sold one to a couple veterans that are from that era that remember those businesses.
Yeah.
So in essence, it's a very good memory book for bringing people back,
Yeah.
for refreshing them, for giving them comfort.
Mhm.
And so I haven't really found the market exactly. And I thought, hey, let me talk to Mike and
Yeah.
then get the message out there because right now there's 10% proceeds if you buy this book. And you can go on our website. It's www.cbsticks.com.
Okay.
And you can purchase a book, and 10% goes to Hope for the Bereaved.
Okay.
This is an organization that I selected because what they do, Mike, essentially is they give groups of people together and they talk about post-suicide, the effects on the parents, on the siblings, and everything else.
Yeah.
And I had a very powerful experience with them, very healing experience with them when I went after Chris had passed away. So I said, these people would be very good to give a proceeds to. So right now, I've done a certain amount of it, but I figured this is going to be a year-round. I'm hoping it to get into some of the bookstores that want to have a memorabilia section about Syracuse.
That'd be nice.
So it's not just for Christmas time, but this is a time of year. I think you'll agree with me. There's a lot of pressure on people, and there's higher rates of suicide and depression for people that are alone or people
Yeah.
that are bullied. So we got off of my comedy thing. We
No,
got into that.
it's all
But
good.
Chris was a very funny guy. He'd come over to the house with his guitar,
Yeah.
and they were dirty songs, but they were funny songs. And he'd play on his. He was a self-taught guitarist.
Oh wow.
He was a packing clerk for my dad for years. And after my dad passed away, he ran the business, and he was a prolific artist. So he was a person of many talents.
Amazing.
It was hard. It would be hard to forget him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a blessing. So I know you said you do theater, sing, comedy, and then he's uh I guess you could say musician, self-taught art guitarist. Uh Basically you got talented people in your family.
Yeah,
That's
I
so
think
nice.
there was a strain of something there. My mom sang on the radio when she was young. We're
Okay.
talking way back
Yeah.
in New York City. And she was theatrical, very theatrical, my mother.
Okay.
So I think maybe we got it from her. And I have a younger brother, Daniel. He was in theater. Now he's a car salesman.
Okay.
So, but in his soul, he's always going to be the theater person.
Yeah.
But once I started rolling, I got into theater, I got into singing, and then I found comedy to be very relieving for me, very therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
For what I'd been through, I wanted to hear laughter back.
Right.
And it was an easy way to do it. Start back at the open mics and then
Yeah.
build up from there. So next year, I hope to be spreading out a little bit and getting out to do some comedy.
That'd be cool, man.
Maybe make some connections in Florida when I go in February too.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd be able to play at some of the clubs. I never got why people say like when they refer to comedy, they'll say like, "Yeah, I played at the Carlson or something." I'm like, I never got the played reference. Like I understand somebody saying I performed, but like I never understood why somebody said played. Like, do you any chance you know or
Yeah, it doesn't
no?
make sense, huh?
Okay, nah, I thought maybe you had like insight. I don't know, but nah, it just it always stuck out to me. That's not funny. We can whatever. All right. But no, yeah. So that's cool, man. Um, I'm just gonna ask you. This is a question I came up with. I was just thinking, uh, what do you think is something that people misunderstand or just don't know about people who take their own life?
Well, I think right now there's a big they're trying to lift the stigma against mental health
Okay.
in terms of the public view, because
Yeah.
people say, "Hey, you look great, you look fine,"
Mhm.
just have another beer, or
Oh, okay.
go see a movie. I
Right.
know you're blue, but there's indications. There were indications along the way with my brother, but he was very close to his chest in keeping the information that was happening to him
Mhm.
on a medical level from me, which I found after the fact. But I would say people have to learn how to listen differently because our listening ability has diminished over time.
I
I can
agree.
tell you that from being the
Right.
age that I am, which I won't reveal.
No problem.
There is a 7 within the number, but I won't
Oh,
tell you to what power the 7
right,
is,
right.
okay? But, the point is that, when we grew up, we didn't have, cell phones.
Mhm.
We didn't have Instagram. We had 1 hour of TV a night. Your homework had to be done,
Mhm.
and you were going to bed, you
Yeah.
know? And there were rules and regulations, and there was discipline there, and there was not the distractions.
Right.
So you listened very hard when you wanted to get a reward at the end of
Mhm.
the month if you wanted or the week if you had an allowance, you wanted to listen to the teacher to get the good grades
Right.
because a lot of it was given to you in live audio,
Mhm.
nothing pre-recorded,
Right, right.
and you had to write everything down. So we're just trying to put back into culture what's so important with people. And because of the disjointedness that people have, social media creating a lot of isolation.
Mhm.
And I want to tell you a quick story
Yeah, go for it.
from a teacher friend of mine. She
Okay.
teaches third or fourth grade, and she said during COVID, when kids didn't go to school, the ones that were kept back for that year, she said they were behind in social development 5 years, three or 2 years,
Wow.
because their social development comes with going to school.
Yeah.
That's where you learn face to face what your boundaries are,
Mhm.
you get an idea of who your identity is,
Right.
what your talents are, and you learn other people.
Right.
And so this is to go. I don't know why I threw that story out. It just was in my
Right.
mind how
Yeah.
profound it was that you take people out of a social environment where there's learning going
Mhm.
on and where there's actually growth supposed to go on,
Yeah.
and then you try to put them back and they're delayed in their development. So
Right.
school may be the only place that people are listening or growing. Um, and I would just say that there's a lot of suicide education facilities and literature available at these different organizations that you should read and go to these workshops. And if you've lost somebody and you have survivor guilt, or you haven't closed the chapter without enormous grief, you can't go past it.
Yeah.
That you go and you learn what is the talk, what is the talk that's the red flag, and how can you gently pull that person out, because this person has already tried to make their mind up
Right.
about what they want to do. But your job is to deflect them from that, to give them support and help.
Yeah.
And usually that's professional help. But people have to become professionals now because professionals are hard to come by.
Right.
You go to any service center for any service and they say, well, we're short staffed today, so I'm sorry about the wait,
Yeah.
you know.
No.
So I wish, and I did have survivor guilt, and I wish that I wondered what could have done for my brother.
Yeah.
Now, did you make that question? I wonder what could I have done for Chris,
Right.
because there was a year before when he was managing my brother David. My brother David, ALS is a very insidious, fast-moving disease. So my brother David was in a wheelchair without too much time, and then he started to lose his muscle function. Then he started to lose his memory. He had dementia, and he was horrible to my brother Chris.
Oh.
And my brother Chris called me up, and I was in the middle of running my husband's business and doing my creative work. And he said, there's a babysitting job on the block, and you can come over and have lunch with us.
Okay.
And I said to Chris, well, I can't give up my job to have a $13 an hour babysitting job, but thank you. And I thought my brother was reaching out to me.
Right.
Like, I need somebody in the house with me to see what I'm handling here,
Yeah.
because it was having an effect on him.
Right.
So that his brother hated him. He was giving everything, every ounce of himself. He had taken care of my dad till he died. He can take care of my mom till he died. She died, and he took care of my brother David. So he was a caregiver.
Right.
He was the maternal figure
Yeah.
in the house, not his sister that flew around, went to Florida, got into comedy, but he was the maternal one. So um, I thought back on that. I said, wow, if I had gone, what could I have done differently? Well, I would given up my work and disrupted my life for that moment, but my brother could talk to me. My brother wanted to talk to me live. He didn't want to call me up.
Right.
So if anything, I would have said maybe to myself, maybe I need to go at a time when he's put David to bed. David's asleep, and I can come and talk to him. And towards the end, his last few days, he would call me and he would talk to me for hours. My brother was never on the phone with me, usually for more than 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
We're making the dinner. Come on over here. Can you bring this? You don't have to bring anything, whatever. Um, and now he was talking to me about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I let him talk.
Yeah.
So, not understanding what the markers might be, I let him sort of do his. I was the mental health counselor, I guess, in effect,
Yeah.
that would just sit there and listen and absorb. And then, of course, the day of, the morning of, the finger's not working. He called the tip line in DeWitt, told them what he was going to do, why,
Mm.
and where they would find him.
Oh,
So the officers just took care of that. And my North Side home had a knock on the door at 7:15 in the morning. Two officers came in. This is about your brother Chris.
yeah.
So all of a sudden, I was thrust into a whole other world of whys and wherefores, and what could I have done without any time to think about that, because I had to think about the house, the estate, everything that was now in my name to take care of.
Yeah.
And I tell you, it's like a shot in the head
Mhm.
and the heart.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't have time to react if you're in a position where you have to manage or you've been given the responsibility for and you've accepted the role. So now on the other side of that, I've had my own health issues, which are controllable and repairable. My brother didn't. He spent himself on taking care of other people. And a friend of mine said he was a guy with completely unselfish heart. He thought about everybody else. In evidence, his artwork didn't bring him a lot of money. So I said, let me remember them this way.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of another way because the option would be to just throw the art in the garbage
Right.
or to put it in a file somewhere in the back room. So, and when I went through the pictures, I had a way to relive my presence with my brother again. His enormous sense of humor is in every sketch.
Oh, yeah.
His
Yeah.
his his attention to detail is there, and so the positive side of that I can relive now.
Yeah.
In answer to your question, the original one, I think there's a lot of organizations that really need to teach people to listen to begin in the basic way
Mhm.
and then elevate that to somebody who's at risk for contemplating dying by suicide.
Yeah. Uh, that's deep. I'm listening and I'm receiving what you're saying and I'm taking some things away from it. Uh, like when you say listen, I feel like that's a big deal. That's something that's as basic as it seems, is becoming like a lost art. Like I could be having, we could be outside. I could be having a conversation with you, and then somebody walks up, sees me, and totally disregards or doesn't think about the fact that we're having a conversation,
Right.
and will start talking to me. And then now I got to try to split the. I've seen it happen like a bunch of times. I've seen it happen where I'm talking to you, and this person comes up, starts talking, and this person starts talking, and I'm thinking to myself like, you can't be serious. Like, you can't see these two people right here. But uh, I
It's like
emphasize that.
disrespect.
Yeah,
Disrespect.
yeah. And although it's become so common to where it's not even intentional, I think, but it's. I'll risk to say it's. I think we have possibly a selfish society. I think a lot more now. Um, when you think, I mean, the big thing right now is do what makes you happy, and I stand by that. But I feel like there's I don't know. I don't know where that's gone wrong to a degree because this topic can go a whole bunch of different ways. Like that could go to family. Like I've heard stories about people leaving their marriage because they're not happy. But I'm sure you can attest. A blacksmith can attest. Every single day inside of a marriage, you might not be happy, but you keep going. You keep showing up to your marriage day in and day out. And
We should always want to live with joy. But
yeah,
the issue comes down to what is my mission and what can I serve society? What can I leave behind
yeah,
that's good with what I do? My good work, if I love to do it and it makes me happy. All of that is really important because that gives meaning to what you do and your happiness. It's just happy to be happy. I mean, a lot of people leave a marriage because they're just not happy and they don't care about the other partner and they don't want to go to counseling. They've made up their mind.
Yeah.
And poof, they're out. And the other person has built a whole world around them.
Right.
But I think that brings me back to the listening thing. I think
Mhm.
with the person that's at risk, you almost have to talk to them and listen as if they're the only person in the world and have no distractions
Okay.
because they're starting to remove all their personhood and become invisible to the world because they feel worthless.
Yeah.
They feel empty with no mission. And I think this is what we're talking about here
Mhm.
in another way.
Yeah.
You can be happy to the point of if you always get your way and you're always generating self-happiness, that becomes narcissistic after a while. If it's not attached to some mission, laugh, educate, motivate. Because comedy is very good for listening. I think you'll agree with me on
Yeah.
this. If you
Yeah.
don't listen to your audience, you don't grow
Right.
as a comedian
Right.
because you know by a tape that this laugh didn't get much. They really went on. I stepped over them on this laugh. I got to pull back and wait.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got to change this whole bit
Right.
because it offended a group of people in the audience, and I got a little heckle laugh out of that for a while, but it didn't last.
Yeah.
So I think um, people should get used to doing public speaking of some kind with before an audience because it requires them not just to speak, but to listen, to
Yeah.
absorb. So I'm very happy that I have this little mission that was given to me. And because of the healing journey that I went through with the survivor guilt and everything, at the end of this, I'm going to help other people
Yeah.
negotiate, their traumas. And a lot of the traumas and all other physical ills that people have come from emotions. Everything comes from the emotions. So if you can only be happy and you never experience what it's like to be disappointed and work through an obstacle,
Mm-hmm.
you don't grow as a person and you
Absolutely.
have nothing to offer the world, really.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's my
I've
opinion.
I've learned some things like through experience where I've had I call them tests. Um, I'm going through things and I'm like, you're going through it and then you get to the end and you get the lesson, you get the wisdom. And I've learned from experience, sometimes you're not always going through things for yourself, not only for your benefit. Because I've been able to learn something, and whether it could sound as simple as learning how to not get overwhelmed, how to take yourself out of a situation, out of a room or whatever, and just collect yourself, take some deep breaths, bring your heart rate down. I've learned that there was times in my own family I was able to use that wisdom to benefit others. To see, okay, this person doesn't look good or whatever. Let me go over and just speak to them, see if they're okay. Let me go ahead and
So that was
just
self management and observational skills that you had
mm,
because you can pull yourself out and be objective.
yeah,
Because it's great to be emotional and all that and in touch with your emotions,
mm,
but to be able to really see what's happening outside of you and another person that's in pain or in
mm,
discomfort, because that's affecting your environment at some point. If it's someone you know, someone you love, or someone
right,
that's a friend, it's going to affect you at some point.
mm,
But meanwhile, what can I help them with? Maybe just listen.
right,
Maybe I don't have all the knowledge to help them with their problem, but I can listen and that will help them. They say, wow, somebody listened to me. I feel better about it. The observation, you're an observer and you're able to be impartial. This is very good to be, this is why you're a successful stand up comedian because you
I
can
appreciate.
remove yourself, and
Yeah,
then see yourself, analyze, do better next time, and listen
yeah,
and crowd work.
yeah,
Crowd work is very popular now. If you look on Facebook, you have all these
absolutely,
comedians that are just doing crowd work,
yeah,
and they're the top picks on the live stream.
right. Now
So
that's common. I mean, it's becoming common too. When you said that you're speaking to the choir, when you say listen, because I can look back and uh this week and see parts where I'm like, okay, I could have listened better. I could have listened. Like I can sit there and pride myself and say, hey, I'm a good listener, but I'm not perfect because there may be, say, whether you're in a rush or whether you feel like being by yourself for that day, but somebody wants to talk to you, whether it's a friend or a
What
family
people
member.
forget is you can talk to somebody, not
Mhm.
know the answer, but as they're talking to you, you say, I know just the person this person needs to talk to.
Right.
I know just the place this person should go. Once they're done, you say, here, call this person or go here. I
Yeah.
think they have something for you. But without you listening, you're not going to know. So everybody's a stranger till you talk to them.
Right.
Everyone. Then when you talk to them and you listen, you don't know where that's going, but it's part of the human condition really to interact,
Mhm.
and it's healthy.
Yeah.
They say that they list happiness or long life is based on social interactions. And it's not just relationships. It's if you go to the hairdresser and you talk to your favorite beautician every time you go, and you know her daughter and you know her whole family. It's when you go to the grocery store, little grocer on the corner, the guy that runs a convenience store, and you talk
Mhm.
to him and you know him.
Yeah.
If you have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of those interactions, that's social interaction. You're interacting with people
Mhm.
that once were strangers to you.
Right. Absolutely.
So everybody that you first meet the first time or even see across the room is a stranger to you. You can make them a friend by just talking to them.
Hmm. And you never know how that could, I don't want to sound selfish, that could benefit you or that could benefit them. Say, like the next week, I'm thinking comedy for some reason. Like, they probably helped you get in somewhere or something like that.
So,
You
so
never know.
I the other part of the story about talking to a
Yeah.
stranger and where it lands you
Mhm.
um, is the story about going into the thrift store, talking to the little guy, and out of my mouth comes, "Do you know anybody who wants to buy a house?" "Yes, mine."
Yeah.
That conversation was so short to my ultimate goal. It was unbelievable, and it was a savior to him too. He
Yeah.
wanted to get out of that house.
If I want you to tell people about that story. We talked about that before we started. Real quick though, before Blacksmith, did it look like you might have
I
had
have
something
one
to
more
add? I don't
small
know. Okay, all right.
I have one more small line about that.
Okay.
The place was Amazing Deals. His name was Lucky. My husband's
Oh,
name was Magic, and he called me his angel. Now tell me
man.
something was not at work for that moment for me to
Absolutely.
walk in that store and say, let's go over there. We haven't been in that place before. And
Yeah.
that guy was waiting to give me what we needed
Yeah. It's what
and what he needed.
I want you to let people know about that. Or I can just give people the outline. I remember it was about uh you needed some place to store a bunch of the items from your family and stuff like that.
Okay, you want me to retell the story?
You could like summarize it or
Okay, manifestation in life comes with you having something in your mind that you desire and then moving forward to receive it and expect that you can receive it. So the short form of that is coming back from a rehab with my husband. We stopped in a thrift store. I have on my mind, I don't want to have a property from one of these real estate people.
Mhm.
And he's going to have another heart attack if he fixes the house. What can I do? Hey, sir, do you know anybody who wants to buy a house, wants to sell a house?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine. So, and poof, we had the house. Instant manifestation. So I'm telling you, you never know when you can walk into a place, talk to somebody, and speak a desire.
Mhm.
Just speak a desire or ask a question, and where that's going to end up. A
Yeah.
benefit for you, a benefit for them, a new friend. That
Yeah.
stranger became something of humanity to you, of value to you. And
Yeah.
everyone is like that. Everyone has something to give and tell.
Absolutely.
And you have something to give and tell. That's
Absolutely.
my story there.
That's a blessing, man. People, you got value. If anybody is in doubt, whether you have friends or you don't, whether you live alone or you don't, you got value. Even if you haven't discovered it yet, even if you haven't been told what it is, if it hasn't been revealed to you, if you're 2 years old and you're able to understand what I'm saying, you got value. I'm saying this it's true. Everybody has value. I'm not trying to say that lightly. I just don't want people to be sitting down somewhere thinking that you got nothing to give to this world, to others, that you were not created by mistake. Nobody was created by mistake. Everybody has a purpose. Everybody has a specific reason why they are on this earth. We talked about that, yeah, a while ago. But we could keep talking about that and keep talking about that
And gratitude.
until everybody understands.
Gratitude is important
Yes.
because as such as you are grateful for and speak it and realize it, the more good things will happen for you. You need to be happy with what you have. In your case,
Yeah.
you're saying who you are. I don't care if you live in an old apartment building on the bottom floor where there's all this noise everywhere and people selling drugs,
Yeah.
and you want to paint pictures and be something special. You have value, yes. Be
Yeah.
grateful for what you have, the skills
Absolutely.
that you have, the mindset you have, because you will rise above
Yeah.
and move on.
Now I stick with that. I do have like another question that just popped up in my head, but uh, just emphasizing not being grateful. Like you may not have everything that you want, but you still have more. Hate to say it like that. You may have more than somebody else, right? Like say you ain't got heat in your house, but you got electricity and food, and your car's running. Try to remind yourself of the positives. Try to always think about the positives. Um, The world is always going to give you negatives. You might wake up with negatives on your mind. You might have to fight moment by moment, day by day, for mental clarity and for peace. But it's worth it. So stay positive. I just want to say, real quick though, as far as for some reason, what I'm trying to avoid is offending you by talking about this subject that you told me you wanted to talk about. I'm overthinking. I apologize. What would you say as far as any advice, any words of it? Yeah, any advice for say somebody who recently uh lost a family member to the same cause? What would you any tips that you would give them? We talked about listening. I think that's a big one. Would there be any other tips or words of advice for how they could deal with the effects of that loss?
Well, I think the first thing is to not keep yourself from blame,
Yes.
survivor guilt. Um, I think this would have helped me to write the good things down about the person, to put that first in your mind,
Yeah.
because you're going to have to deal with the other part at some point.
Mhm.
Immediately find professionals or organizations that can help you process as soon as possible
Yeah.
your loss,
Yeah.
because they will be expert at having you recognize the stages of grief. I think there's 7 of them.
Yeah.
Okay, one is not even believing it, ignoring it, or anyway, it goes through a 5. I can't even tell you which ones they are.
I feel you.
And I don't think you're all through. It's not going to go so that you're through them all in a sequence.
Mm.
But there's books that you can buy, a lot of them that are good books. I would get the top book on losing a family member or losing a sibling or losing whatever to suicide, and read it and go for help. Go for where there's a group situation or feedback. The sooner you can process it properly under the auspices of an authority
Mm.
who has, the better you're going to be. That would be my number one tip.
Okay.
And I didn't think of it till later, but the positive memories. If you put them up as positive memories, then the first thing that you're processing on your own is the positive things about them, and not so much the actual event
Yeah.
for which you should get help.
Yeah.
Um, I think crying openly with family members, with other people, is a good thing too. That's
Okay.
another tip,
Yeah.
because you can't hold this grief inside you, and you don't want to feel alone
Right.
about that emotion. It will be common to those people too. You have a crying session and you have pictures of the person come out. This is another suggestion. Everybody vibes in a different way.
Hmm.
I'll tell you one quick story
Yeah.
from Hope for the Bereaved, uh, a group session. I was sitting in a group session and with my brother's coloring book, the first one I'd produced, and someone sitting next to me had a son who died by suicide by driving into a building in Liverpool without a seatbelt on. He was an artist. and this was a mother at the session. And she said he kept all the artwork in a nice pile down there. She was hysterical. And you know how you don't want to interrupt somebody's emotions and suppose that you know better
Right, right.
about anything, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the coloring book that I produced. And I said just 2 or 3 words to her. I said, "Can I speak with you?" And it may not make any sense to you now, but I would like to speak with you.
Yeah.
And she just nodded to me and with her Kleenex going. I said, "Your son put all his love in those pictures, which he stacked for you. He left you all his love. And someday you may realize that all he could do is leave you his love that way and couldn't go on himself and couldn't break his silence with you." I said, "My brother left me these gifts. And I still miss my brother.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm past the stage of it tearing me up because he would have wanted me to do something meaningful and fun and creative with his work, which he attempted to do in his lifetime. So I think there's an answer for you quickly.
Mhm.
Where did they leave their love? Inside your heart, the good things about them.
Yeah.
Let the professionals help you process as soon as possible the actual event. And then you'll want to unravel the whys that you can see, but not to hold yourself responsible for,
Mhm.
not to hold yourself responsible and put yourself in a deep hole
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah.
My final tip.
I imagine that's encouraging. You know, I wanted when you were telling me about the Survivors Guild, I wanted to. Part of me was like trying to console, but I'm like, sit back, listen. You know, of course, this is a grown woman, and you may have already, uh, you may not need it, so to speak. Maybe you know, but that was just. I always feel like saying my condolences is kind of like an asshole term to a degree if somebody's lost something, but that's
I think I
definitely
prefaced my conversation with her. I'm sorry for your loss. Would you mind me saying something to you in reflection of my loss? That's how I
okay.
started it. So, yeah, I guess, I just could not control myself
Yeah.
with that thought because I thought, here's a teenager. He could have just left his stuff in a pile somewhere, but
Mhm.
it was all for her to discover in one place.
Yeah.
And the biggest part of his expression and happiness were in those pictures. His love was there. And I had to say something. That's what I felt.
Right. Right.
So, um,
'Cause you
whether it made a difference or not, again, we go back to the everybody's a stranger till you talk to them and you don't know what you can take from them. Maybe today, this would be 2 years later, 2.5 years later. Maybe she's thinking about that.
yeah.
Maybe she wants to exhibit the work, in honor of him.
Yeah. I definitely believe personally that your brother would be proud of you. The fact that you're continuing his work, that you're spreading it, bringing awareness to the situation as well as his work. We want to show you a picture real quick. We're gonna pull up a pic right now. One of the photos I saw online. It'll be the one in black and white. I think number 3. Yeah, so this one, and it's not just art. It's some comedy to it too, which I like. Like you see,
With the
yeah. So there's a guy who's bodybuilding. He got like what 2 anchors on his arm. He got like 3 barrels on his shoulders and whatnot. Then he got a whole bench around. I mean, he got you see what he's holding up, and then if you look towards his feet, there's a kid with candles, who put candles in between his toes and is lighting them on fire. So it's art and it's comedy, which I enjoyed a lot.
He's a story. The quick story I have about that
Yeah.
is I was selling these comic books in a place called, gosh, I don't know where it was, Cayuga County somewhere, little hick town in Cayuga County. And then I had these 15, 16-year-old girls that came, And I had the art as individual pictures, and they were buying them. And she said, "Well, we don't have enough for this third one." I said, "I give it to you." I said, "What do you like about this art?" She said, "It's a story."
Yeah.
And then they started to talk about it like you did. Over here, this is going on, and this is a story.
Yeah.
We like stories and pictures
Absolutely.
because that's how they interpret a story. This generation, 15-year-olds would be underneath the millennials, I think, whatever that generation
I
is.
think I'm classified as a millennial.
Okay.
I think
So
like
this
a
was
90.
underneath 32. Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
gosh. You lose your memory when you get older. You don't know what's the depth
It's all good.
separation anymore.
It's all
And
good.
I said, well, and somebody told me this would be good tattoo art. So this could go
Oh,
in a number of directions, and I'm just going to put it out there to let it fly.
yeah.
But what I like to do is get back that benefit to an organization that, as I told you, is the place people should go for the literature and the processing as soon as possible
Yeah.
about the loss.
Yeah.
Because you're going to try so hard to just do catch up. How did it happen? How could I have prevented it?
Right.
But you need to take your all important self out of it
Hmm.
and just let the situation sit there and let the professionals help you sort it.
Yeah.
And then deal with your own emotions surrounding it over time. It's not an easy thing. I tell you, I one quick story. It's
Yeah.
funny in a way. The officers came and told me that my brother had passed away in the house, and they had to tell me the basic facts that he hung himself. So when I went back to the town of DeWitt to get my, there were end of life notes, suicide notes. I call them end of life notes that he left at the scene. This was important for the closure for my family
Yeah.
to know what were in the notes, what prompted what he did, or what surrounded what he did.
Yeah.
And so since there were notes, it means my brother, who wasn't very verbal, was pretty specific about what were in the notes. So I went once and they said, "Well, this is still an open investigation." I go, "Why? I couldn't possibly have killed him." Okay.
Right. Right.
I was in my house and look at me. I'm 122 pounds.
Yeah.
He was 285. And
Right.
these were all tall officers. And finally they said to me, "Ma'am, you don't want to know what's in that report anyway." And I said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "You don't think it's bad enough? Two of your officers came, and what was going through my mind when they walked through my door and told me my brother had taken his life in the basement of the house? You don't think there was a more dramatic thing? I'm going to sit here till you give me those notes."
Yeah.
And they did. And that's what I quoted in the beginning of your show.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning, my fingers didn't work. The writing was on the wall. There's nothing left for me. Please remember us. And alluded to the fact that he didn't want his little sister taking care of him
Oh,
in his waning qualityless life that would proceed from whatever he was suffering. And the story behind that is both of them worked, my brothers, both of them that developed ALS worked in a factory on Teal Ave
okay.
that had asbestos in it.
Ah.
And on the weekends, they took their lawnmowers and they did cheap properties for the people to try to keep their taxes paid in DeWitt. And they used Roundup. So these two things, you put them together, and they're precursors for ALS.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But somebody told me, "Oh, you should just put everything aside and follow the lawsuit on that." And I said, "Look, I don't have thousands of years ahead of me anyway. Okay. So let me do something that's creative and fun
Yeah.
and let that all go." But here was my brother, an artist, and his brother who had, was bipolar. My brother David was bipolar.
Okay.
And both of them had to work in a manufacturing facility that had unsafe conditions at night, every night of the month, and paid out of pocket for the cleaning supplies. They were basically the maintenance cleanup crew,
Yeah.
and they were at risk for these chemicals that were all over that building, which were covered up and taken out before that building was sold. I'm not going to tell you who owns it or where the building is, but it was sufficient to make me do a double take when they started to have the commercials about the Roundup. And then I realized my brother had a little compact car and he had that lawnmower in the back seat. And that lawnmower had been over lawns that had been drenched in Roundup. So my two brothers were doing the work. My brother David and Chris. He wanted to keep his brother active because he was bipolar. He'd been in a group home and he wanted to keep him, active.
Yeah.
So in order to make his life as brilliant as an artist that he was, couldn't make a cent of money to keep the house in DeWitt with the big taxes afloat. And once David passed away, he didn't have that income, but he didn't speak about it. He never reached out about it. So behind everything, there's a reason, but you also have to pick your battles, pick your missions, and pick wisely so that you get the ultimately good result,
Yeah.
with the least amount of gut-wrenching stress that you can have.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know where we started with all of that, but
No, it's okay. It's perfectly fine.
and you think about how many artists have dug basements and shoveled shit to be able to get their craft going,
yeah,
keep their craft going.
odd jobs and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, man. We're I want to keep you in the vibe of wisdom. You're giving a lot of gems, a lot of wisdom right now. If I mean, yes, of course, you have more wisdom. It's there's so much to pick from. Would you say, like, as far as, is there a gem of wisdom that you've learned from experience, or that you've been taught or told that you stand by? That you
Okay,
would
I will
give
tell
them.
you one thing, that my particular health situation came from not doing enough self-care.
Okay.
I think people have to understand that soda is not good for you.
Right.
A pizza diet every other day is not good for you. That non-processed foods and whole foods are the best to eat. As you get older, you appreciate eating more quality food. So if you
Okay.
want to get ahead of the aging process, you do it by taking care of yourself. That means meaningful work, good friendships, wholesome food, and learning who you are. Who's your authentic self?
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people, live for what other people think.
Right.
Oh, my mom said I should do that, and I'm good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what do you want to do?
Right.
So being authentic is where you're going to have your most power and things are going to come to you. So I was kind of buried and I've just discovered my authentic self, which brought me back to comedy. And now I'm having success with my comedy because now I have this a core of synchronicity with my authentic self.
Okay.
So I say that's where I've come after all this time. I'm giving that as a general to
Okay.
everybody out there.
All right.
So you have come to the point of laugh, educate, motivate. That is the core of who you are as a person. You're a
Absolutely.
very funny comic,
I appreciate that.
but the fact that you reach out and you instill people in other subjects is very important. That people, come to be ready to laugh,
Yeah.
but to also learn.
Yeah.
And then hopefully after this podcast, listen better to their friends and their strangers. Listen.
Absolutely. I feel like if people don't take nothing else away from this, listen. I feel like that's a not. I'm not, of course, trying to lessen anything else that we talked about, but I definitely feel like that's something I'm definitely going to take away from this is listen better, listen more authentically. Um, yeah, yeah. I feel like this is definitely a meaningful episode. I feel like because I'll be honest, I know comedians were seen as not necessarily the clowns that we're supposed to always be on. Some days I wake up, I don't feel like laughing. I don't feel like cracking jokes. I want to be left alone, and that's just. But so I like to have meaningful episodes as well. I definitely feel like this is meaningful, and
Thanks for having me on. I've enjoyed it.
absolutely, I appreciate you. You're a huge reason why this was meaningful. You and your story, and your brother's artwork. We want to show one more picture before we before we head out. This is one of the categories. I believe I saw three online. It was Musclehead and Babes. This one right here. There's Musclehead and Maniacs. And I believe this new one right here, Syracuse Good Times. Um, do you have like a favorite out of these right here? Like there's the cheerleaders up in the upper right, and then there's the gym guy, the lower right. Then there's the
I
middle
honestly
right.
like the simplicity and the innocence of I think it was called on the website Friends with Benefits. The guy the
Oh, right there.
basketball player with the girl sitting on his lap in the lower
Okay, yeah,
left.
lower left. Yep.
Yeah, I kind of like the Catholic girl. I like the Catholic girls too.
Okay, is that the upper right?
Yeah.
Okay. The way they was dressed, I wasn't thinking of belief or religion. I was like, all right,
Well, they're
they
holding
ready.
up a crucifix.
Right, right.
It was my brother. My dad was an atheist, and my mom was a Roman Catholic.
Oh, okay.
So I was actually lucky because even if I messed up all my life, it was fine because I was going to hell no matter what.
Okay. I got you.
So my brother was a mix of irreverence. He didn't believe. My dad didn't believe in God, and my brother Chris was basically a non-believer too.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Very
yeah.
strange household.
It's all good. Yeah, there's some other good artwork. Can I show that real quick? Yeah. This is some nice ones right here too. I think this one right here, I forgot the name of it, but it was not once in a lifetime.
Urban
Urban Legend.
strength.
Urban Legend. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nice. And then
So that
what's that?
became part of a T-shirt campaign we did at one time, and T-shirts and mugs. But I haven't gotten very much back into the marketing till recently.
Okay.
Uh, I'm on my self-healing journey still,
Yeah.
but I did want to get this some out there, and I decided to go and talk to you because I thought I could have a really open, organic discussion about a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, and we were able to.
Absolutely.
Um, so that's where we are with that.
Yeah. I
Um,
appreciate you reaching out for sure. Let the people know where they can find you. Say comedy gigs or and then let us know where they can find these books. Anything else we need to know about these
okay, well, if you
sources
want to
as
see me
well?
do comedy as Rena Riles, and this older woman, she has a real trouble with my name.
Okay.
Renaya Riles, she calls me.
Right, right.
And I said, look, it's just like Wren, like a bird, Wren,
Okay.
ah.
Right, right,
So I
right.
said, Wren, ah,
Yeah.
Renaya. She's been a
Right.
great lady. She's a great
Okay.
lady. I don't want to. Jody Oliver. She live streams on her show, the Jody Oliver Show, every Sunday at 8, and I'm
Okay.
always on there.
Okay.
And I'm
That's
featured
nice.
next Sunday. This Sunday? This Sunday I'm featured, and then Christmas Eve I'm featured in Virginia. I get 8 minutes.
Okay.
So I've been steadily improving, and I really like the Zoom. I thought I was going to not like the live stream and stuff like that
Yeah.
because I was so used to doing in-person gigs. But then I thought, well, I'm not going to get out anytime soon. And then during COVID, I discovered a couple of open mics,
Oh
and
yeah.
then I got in with this group of older comedians from the tri-state area,
Okay.
Connecticut, New York, and Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So there I am now doing that and getting able to hone my stuff. So I do that.
Nice.
You can find this and our other coloring books at www.cbsticks.com.
Mhm.
And I have a podcast that I sometimes do on Spotify called One Podwiser.
Okay. Like that
And
name.
that's there are some episodes on there. I'm not very regular on those. I'll probably get more regular after February.
You will get more regular.
I will. I
You
will.
will get more
I'll,
regular.
yes, because I like to laugh, educate, and motivate too on
Awesome.
that podcast.
Thank
I've talked a lot about this situation. I've had artists on before, so it's been fun for me.
you. Thanks, man.
But I enjoy being hosted by you. You're
Oh,
excellent.
I appreciate that, man. I'm not the best at receiving compliments, but I appreciate that. I
Well,
usually
that's something you have to learn to accept and get better at
absolutely,
because
absolutely
that's part of building your self
self-esteem.
confidence and authenticity in your authentic self. Someone's complimenting you, it's because they perceive you as good and valuable in that aspect. And you need to You need to confirm that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Diane Bostick just educated me. Just educated.
Well, you are
No, I appreciate it.
32. I think I can educate you in a
Right,
few
right,
more ways, but this is
right.
safe right now.
No, I
Okay.
appreciate it. All right, so we got your Facebook and Instagram, Diane Bostick. Uh, find
Oh,
these
yeah, there's a
books.
Facebook Diane Bosick. There's a Facebook Ren O'Reilly's.
Okay,
Okay.
Ross.
And then www.cbstick.com, you can buy this coloring book. And if you're
Okay.
local to Syracuse, we deliver it for free.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
And
Okay.
10% goes to Hope for the Bereaved. And Christmas time is here. And
Absolutely.
but we'll be selling this also in January, February, March. But I want to get the word out now. Um, our target audience for this would be the elders, our boomers. I'm a boomer.
Yeah.
Thanks for your sympathy on that. But actually, there's a lot of us out there that are still very active, have grandchildren,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a golden opportunity for them to sit down with their youngsters, their youngsters,
Mm-hmm.
and do coloring. Coloring is a fun activity, and this is the dark season here in Syracuse,
Yeah. Yeah.
which lasts a couple months.
Yeah.
So come buy a book, and that'll benefit suicide prevention and awareness. And come see me on Facebook. Watch the Jody Oliver show. Sorry, on live streamed on Facebook, 8 p.m. on Sunday.
Okay.
I'm always part of the group usually,
Nice, man.
and this week I get 8 minutes.
All
Imagine
right.
that.
Right. Nice, man. Ladies and gentlemen, Renner Rouse, aka I know her as Diane Bostick. I'm just gonna respectfully I'm
Okay.
gonna keep saying it. Diane Bostick. Uh Shout out to Magic. He's here with us too. Diane's husband. Shout out to Blacksmith. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you click that like button. Like right now, please. Because people usually they like, oh, I like the episode. And then they log off. Please click the button, the like button. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the C2C Indie Radio. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we post a new video. And also there's a bunch of other content on that on the page. So go ahead and give that a look. Possibly most importantly, people, make sure you share this video. There's somebody who could use a laugh, somebody who could use some education, possibly, most importantly, somebody who could use some motivation. I got it all three. I got all three. I did it in the
You're gonna need a new sign pretty soon.
I got excited. Yeah, excuse me. I'm sorry. Usually I'm pointing over here. All right. Motivation. We're gonna keep that in. We're gonna keep that in. We're not editing that out. Make sure you give yourself a round of applause too. Because at the end of the day, you just stepped outside the box. Peace.